Today I'm fixing my digital fuel gauge here from PowerTune Digital. The problem is I just filled up my tank and it only reads 13%. And if I change the values, it only reads minus 132. So I have to take all this off, fuel pump out and everything, and see if I can adjust it. With the storage bin gone, I just removed this part here. This is all mine, so you wouldn't have this. So I just removed this, and that will allow me to access the pump. Okay, so safety first. So in my case, I have to remove this fuse because that powers the fuel pump, and I only need to know the fuel level and don't actually need fuel pressure or pump, whatever you call it. So hopefully this should fix the problem for the pump not doing anything. Unfortunately, that big fuse also powers my display, so I didn't have a choice. Put the fuse in, but I disconnected the cables that goes to the fuel pump, which is these two, so that should be fine. So as you can see, it still shows 13%. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this fuel level thingy here, and I'm going to change or move the lever and see if it does anything. So here we go. This is all out. This should be the empty position, and that should be the full position. So in empty it shows 87%, which is still off, but it's not too bad. Though at full it shows 13, so it seems to be the wrong way around. So I modified the values here. I will show you. So this is 100% and this is empty, and I would say this is about halfway maybe, which doesn't seem right because it's not even fully up and it already shows 100. So basically this is empty, and then from here it shows halfway, which is definitely not halfway, and then from there it shows full. They still have half to go, so we need to figure out what's going on. So according to some tests that I did, this is the fuel level sensor, and fuel isn't all the way there apparently. Fuel is actually between the two dots. I didn't know. So that's the full and that's empty. So when I check the empty value, it shows 1.5 volt, which changes for some reason. Sometimes it's a little bit less, sometimes it's a little bit more. So 1.5, and if I make it full, which is about there, it shows 4.79, and then I go empty again, 1.5, take it about half, I would say it's about there, which is about 4.5 already, which is weird, isn't it? It is empty again, and that's full. But full, yeah, I would say that's full. So full is actually not between the dots, I think. Let me check. Full is it's here. It's actually, I will show you. The full level is actually between those two numbers, kind of like where the arrow is. That's full. So I will try to keep it there. And if we go back to my display, I'm sorry, I just moved it back on the arrow, and then here it shows 4.7. So actually it's pointing to the 7. That's so this 7 there is full. So I think these are the values. So that's what I need to enter in my display. Now I know my values. I need to check if the way I connected this in the beginning was actually correct, because basically I can move this thing around different locations, and I just need to check those lines are movable. I can remove, that's not a big problem, but I need to check if the values that I see, if I move it like that, if that is correct before I actually tighten everything up. So going back to my display here, this is not accurate anyway, so I'm just going to add a neat little gauge there again and see if the values are correct or not. So based on the calculations, the value at it's a bit hard to focus. The value here, I will show you, at AN7, this, the value at 5 volts should be 5 apparently. Not sure if that's correct. And then, oops. And the value at 0. Okay, that's incorrect. So the value at 0 volt should be 105. This should be 5, and this should be 105. Now, according to the system, this should move. Well, it doesn't do that yet. As you can see, it still shows 110%, but this should be correct. Just going to restart my dash here and see if it works. Stupid me didn't have this connector connected, so just have to check and see if it shows 9% again. It's booting up as we speak. Yes, unfortunately it still does. So what I'm going to do actually is going to play with the values and see if I can find the correct value. So what I've done, I set this to 0, so empty, and I created 2 gauges. One is showing the voltage and one is showing the calculated percentage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this value to 0 and the other one to 100, and going to see what the values are. So let's do 100 first. So this is 100 and it shows 9 as value, which is not right. So here we have 100% value. It's a tiny bit off, but if I turn it down, it goes to 35. So need to try to fix the 0. So I finally got the values. This is completely empty, right? And this is completely full, which is correct. Empty and full, so that's fine. Now I want 5% of buffer. So when it's empty, it should show 5 instead, and when it's full, it should show 100. Actually, it was a bit easier to calculate the 2% buffer. So I did 2%, 2.6% if it's empty, and then 100% shows 100, which is not 5%, but it's better than nothing. 2% of 45 liters is, what's that? 10% is 4.5, so that's less than a liter. So you shouldn't be driving it less than 10% anyway. But this seems to work. So I'm going to build everything in and see if it still works. So for now I just connected 3 bolts to it, one on that side there, over there and over there, just to see what value it shows, which shows 100%. I'm not even sure if this is 100%. It should be, because you know I calculated. This value is gone, but yeah, it should basically show it's 100%. And I will show you here what the values exactly are, so you don't have to figure it out yourself. So for the one that shows at value at 0 volts, it's minus 42.51, which has a 2% buffer. Then without a plus, just 10606, is value at 100%, with no buffer. It's just 100%. So to connect all this, don't pay attention to this, but what I did, based on the values I have on my display, which works, is the CAN extender from the PowerTune Digital. So there's one wire here in the back, which is that pink wire you see there. It's hard to focus, but the pink wire goes to a 240 ohm resistor in my case. You can change this, by the way, but I went for 240 ohm. And then the purple wire you see there is the AN7. So the AN7 and the pink wire, they join after the resistor for me. So you have the pink wire, goes to the resistor, the other side of the resistor joins into the pink wire, sorry, the purple wire, and that purple wire for me goes to my fuel level sensor, the blue wire in my case. Not sure what the color is originally, but you have black, red, and then there's another one. The other one is a sensor, okay? Then the plus wire of my sensor, scrap that idea. I figured it out. I had it to the purple pink wire before. It didn't really work. What I did is I used a 12 volt supply that I power the CAN extender with, which is this wire here, and that wire goes somewhere, where, I think to the back of the car or somewhere there. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, but this wire powers the CAN extender for me, and that same wire, which is the brown one over here, goes to the plus of my fuel level sensor, and then it powers something else here. Most likely this comes from an ignition. It's not an ignition light, it's something that turns on straight at the first key without starting the car. So I will show you here quickly. So when I turn the key one way, nothing turns on. Not even my gauge. The only thing that turns on is my display in a few seconds and my radio. There we go. Other than that, nothing on the car turns on. Not even the power steering pump. Nothing turns on. So whatever this wire is, I think it's something like the radio life, because the radio turns on, so it goes here and then it goes in the back somewhere there. So I would say it's something like the radio or so that that it turns on from, because I want my gauge on all the time without having to start the car. And so if I turn it now, you can see that this one turns on. If you can hear, the power turns on, all that stuff turns on. So that only happens after I actually turn the key twice. Other than that, it's only the display that turns on. So I had to start the car because of the power I have, but everything should work. So that's how I connected it on my car. I had it to the 5 volts first, it didn't work, and that's why I used the same as the CAN extender, which is a 12 volt supply. And as you can see, it shows 100% still, and this disappeared, but that should be fine as well. So I'm just going to go over, as you can see here, I haven't changed it. It's still minus, you can't see it here, but it's minus 42.51 at 10606. Tested it about 20 times, and that allows me to have a 2% buffer, and 100% is actually 100%, so that's correct. And then the 2% buffer, but when it's turning red you shouldn't be driving anyway, which for me is about 8% or so. So I'm just going to drive the car just around the block, see if everything is working the way it should be, and I will go back. So yes, I can confirm everything works. I haven't gone, the tank is empty obviously, but it works.